Hi guys, it's Jessica here. Another doll journaling video for you by popular request. So it's not strictly a doll related video, but it's going to be about how I journal about my dolls, and mostly what this is going to be today is how I decorate my pages of my journal. The actual writing and that sort of thing, writing stories, that's a separate issue really. But this is how I decorate my journal that I like to write in, because I find that inspiring for writing. So I'll show. This was some pages that I was working on last night, and so I have some photos that I had printed out and pasted in here, and started doing some lettering, drawing some borders and Celtic knots. The first step, of course, before all of this was preparing the page with a watercolor wash. So I'm gonna try to kind of go through the steps of how I achieve this sort of thing, and not necessarily so that you can like copy it verbatim, but to kind of inspire you and give you ideas. And you know, if you want to practice it and do it just like I do, that's okay too. It's not that big a deal. This is for fun. It's my own kind of personal project. It's not something that I sell or anything like that. It's very personal, really. So let's see see if I have another. This was a page. I had finished this page quite a while ago, and this was another one that I was working on last night, with some lettering and just doing borders on the page. So this is the kind of thing that I'm going to show you how I do today. So the first step is going to be doing some watercolor washes on some pages. So we'll move some stuff around here and we'll kind of go over that. This journal, I think it's a 64-page journal. It's a Cheek Sparrow that I actually cut down to fit into my A6. So it's actually a little irregular size. It's not strictly A6, it's a little bit wider. But that's, you can see, let's see, I'll show the top of it here. This is the center mark. This is the center page. And so you can see the thickness by adding watercolor washes. The pages become a little bit warped and just thick with pictures. And then this is I have started on this half too, but you can see the difference. So this definitely, you know, is going to make it thicker and change the consistency, but I like it. You know, I like this. I've made my progress through this journal. That's just kind of how I do that. So, and you can see as I get through this, it doesn't lay quite as flat as it did initially, and that's just kind of the way it goes. As it gets thicker, that it's going to kind of go this way. Let's see. So we're going to start with some watercolors, and this is my Schmincke tin, which came with my 12 watercolor set of Schmincke watercolor pans, and then I also have my Winsor & Newton Cotman watercolors and a violet artist grade that I had put in here. So this is kind of my personal palette that I have right now, and that's what I've been working with predominantly. I have a little spray bottle of water that the Schmincke paints don't really need this too much, but you know, I do like to moisten them. It kind of gets things going a little bit. I love water brushes. These are super awesome. Really super love them. These things weren't around when I was a kid, and I like this because you can take this with you, and it's a lot. It's very tidy, I guess is what I would say. So, but I'm just going to go ahead and do some washes on these pages, and you can kind of see how I do that. I do a lot of, I do mix paints but I oftentimes I mix them directly on the page. So, but I'll just go through. You can see, you know, what I'm doing and how I'm doing it. I need to change this way though. Can you still see it? Yeah, because that's how I'm used to it being orientated when I work with it, and I think it still shows up on there. Okay, so I think one of my very favorite colors is this. I think it's a phthalo blue, and it's the Cotman's phthalo blue. It's really this is one of my favorite combinations, is the phthalo blue with the raw umber. I think this is raw umber. And I'm not going to really use a lot of washi tape at this point. I haven't been using washi tape in this particular doll journal. Not to say that I absolutely would not, but I haven't been. It's a little bit of green, and so there's not going to be a lot of washi tape in this particular video. Like my past journals that I did, that I showed yesterday, there was a lot of washi tape, and I haven't been doing as much of that. So I really like these very vibrant. So I don't do them very dilute a lot of times. Sometimes I will do several washes depending on what my mood is. If I'm really wanting to do that, then I will. But a lot of times it's just one really thick layer, and that's kind of what I like. This in here. So I just went and got a paper towel to kind of wipe my brush with, and I'm going to turn this around. Let's see how I'm going to do this so that you guys can see. It's different when I'm doing it for an audience. I'm trying to make sure I'm staying aware of where my hand is so that you can see, and you don't think about that when you're doing it on your own. So I wanted to do some purples over here. This is going to be some really pretty purples. But this is your own personal preference as far as what colors you want, of course. You know, this is where you decide what colors appeal to you and how you want to mix them. And I experiment, you know, about experimenting too, and sometimes it's not going to turn out. You'll decide, well, I don't really like that, and well, then you know, you know that you don't like that. But so this is a pretty limited color palette that I have right now. A lot of repeats with the two, and eventually I would like to get more colors, but there's quite a bit that you can achieve with this little palette that I have. Okay. So, if you're really in a hurry, then you can use a heat gun or a hair dryer to dry this off. Oftentimes I am doing multiple things at the same time, so I might just set this aside and do something else and come back to it. But sometimes I just want to keep going ahead, so I'll take a hair dryer to it. But I'm going to set it aside over here because I do want to go ahead and show briefly my printer. So we'll wait for that to dry. And I'll put these away for now. So, because people have been asking me about my printer, so this is what I've been using to print out all of my pictures that I use. So my photos, I should say. This is for printing my photos. So these little photos, these are, you know, I have all different sizes, but they all come from this 4x6 that I print out on my Selfie. And this is a Canon Selfie CP1200 with Wi-Fi, and I don't have a battery for mine, so I have to plug it in, and I don't have it plugged in right now. But so is it gonna fit on here so you guys can see? I want to show you. So it is very compact, this little thing, but when you actually want to print, you do have to set up some space around it. So you open up this is the part that actually holds the printer paper that prints out these little 4x6s. And so this goes in here, and so when it prints, it's going to, I don't know if you can see that, so it's going to print, and it goes out here, comes through, and it does 3 passes with this. So you do have to have the space here in front of and behind. So I really like this a lot though, because it's I can do it all through my phone with the Wi-Fi. Any of the pictures that I have on my phone, I can send directly to the Selfie, and it can print them that way. You can also send them from your computer, or anything that has Wi-Fi can do that basically. But I like to, of course, you know, a 4x6 print like this would be huge. I'm not going to be sticking those in my journal like that. But you don't have to restrict yourself that way. I use PicArt, which is an app on my iPhone, to make these collages of the photos that I have, and I can arrange them many different ways. I mean, you can just play with it forever, getting it just how you want it. And I really like this method a lot, because so here, this one 4x6 print has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 little pictures in it. And what I've even done is this is like Selfie Inception or something. I will make a collage, and then I will stick the collage in a collage, and the collage, you know, so you can get these really tiny, and the resolution is pretty good, so it's amazing how tiny a pictures you can get. Let's see, here's some older, I'm gonna see if I had some really tiny ones in here. You heard Toby burping. That's a pretty small one. But I mean, you can get these really tiny. So. By the way, if you're new to my videos, there are bulldogs all around us. We're surrounded. They are chewing on their bones. They are snoring and snorting. There's burping, there's farting. Basically, I live in a bulldog frat house. So, Toby's getting worked up. Okay, so back to my page here that I am working on. You can go back and put more layers on. You can add effects. You know, you can do whatever you want, and sometimes I will do those things, but I'm going to go ahead and add some distress inks, and that's how I get, like, here's a previous page here. I have been using, I've got this one. This is probably my favorite. It's a very dark, rich color. It's called Vintage Photo. It reminds me of like coffee staining. I also have, let's see, I have this one, which is tea dye. And then I have the brighter colors too. These smaller ones, these were kind of the first ones that I got. They're some really bright colors. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go ahead and start with this one. So, and if I had some latex gloves, I would be using those because this is really messy. So I'm going to kind of, I have this sponge that I've been using. You can also use these directly. They're like a little pad, a little stopper pad, or blotter pad, I guess, and you can use those directly on there. I've been using the sponge. I like that. I feel like I have more control and I can get a better gradation. So I'm going to move some things aside, and because this does tend to get a little messy, and it seems like despite my best efforts I still a lot of times get ink on my hands, and well, we're crafting, so that's what happens. So you can see this sponge that I've used. But all I'm going to do, and I'm going to start and there's different ways to do this. This is just kind of the way that I've developed, and you know, there's things that you can buy to make these easier. There's so many like tools that you can get. I'm always trying to make do with what I have and maximize what I have and what I can do with it. But sometimes I will build up several layers. The tea dye one is a lot lighter, so sometimes I will use that more like on the actual watercolor part in the center. If I just want to kind of tone down with the colors, I feel a little more bright than I would like, a little more saturated. I really like these two dyes because to me they do a really good job giving it a bit of an aged look. But I do prefer it pretty. I don't like it too subtle. Is what I'm trying to say. So I might speed this part of the video up because it's not. It's just kind of going around the edges here. It's nothing super fantastic. You can see that there's a lot of possibilities for things that you can do, and this is kind of my preference that I've developed. For the most part, all of these separate techniques, I mean, this nothing new here. I mean, these are all, there's tons of crafting channels that talk about a lot of these methods and these things, so this is just my particular combination of these things. So if you're seeing something that's interesting to you, chances are there are more videos, more in-depth than what I'm doing here, and you can go watch those. So, but I know a lot of people that are watching this are people who are in the doll hobby, and so this might be, for a lot of people, it might be their first exposure to it. So if I'm talking kind of remedial, some of you are like, yeah, that's old news. I think that turned out really pretty. I'm going to cut out some pictures. So I'm going to start just decorating the page, and you know, at this point you could have wrote things, you could have drawn pictures, you know, whatever it is that you want to do. And sometimes I just don't feel like decorating, and I'll just go and be writing, and maybe add decoration later. It's just whatever whatever you want to do. It's your journal, and however you want to do it. There's no right or wrong. So I'm just going to go ahead and maybe just start doing some borders on these photos. And so I do a lot of, this is a gold gel pen, and I like the gel pens for going over darker washes like this because they're so opaque, and there's these pretty metallic pins. I love gold, of course, so there's lots of gold. And I love to do Celtic knot work, and most of my knots are based on traditional knots and things that were like in the Book of Kells. I have several clip art books that I've had for ages that I use for references, and I like to do my own thing with them, but I oftentimes just use the traditional knot as is too. So the thing about Celtic knots, which is fun, is as a design element, you can make them to fit a lot of different spots. They're organic that way. So I really like them. And that's what like I said, I've done them for years, and so it's been nice getting into drawing them again. So just did a real simple little knot, and that's one of the things I like doing, is basically drawing the knot out with this and then going over and adding the inking lines afterwards, and it's a lot more forgiving that way, and then you can weave the ends in and out because it's a knot, so the under and over and over and under, it's just over and over, and so you can tie the knots many different ways and many different patterns as long as things are going over and under. So they're not perfect by any means. I don't usually do things like draw out grids and things, because there is really like scientific ways, I guess, that you can do it, and I've never really done that. But you certainly can. You can find a knot that you like online. You can get them from these clip art. I've had these for years. I have a bunch of these. These were, who is this by? Dover makes a bunch of these that actually came with a CD, so that you could use them digitally if you wanted to, but they just have pages and pages of knots, and so there's all kinds of resources. You know, and the thing is, there are knots that, you know, modern day people have designed, and that it's copyrighted. So, you know, it is nice to kind of pay attention to that sort of thing, and make sure that you're not basically stealing somebody's art. This is your personal journal, and if you want to copy or practice art, I think it's not that big a deal. If you are sharing it publicly online, and then that's probably a point for you to either be crediting where it came from, but you know, your own private journal for practicing and drawing. That's how you learn, is you look at art and practice. You know, they say, what is that, doing the work of the master? So it's but yeah, you don't want to just be like going in somebody's huge Celtic image that they have drawn and spent a long time working on, and pretty much copy it and then go and claim it as your own. That's kind of crappy. So don't do that. You know, these are very simple knots that are in a lot of stuff. So kind of sloppy, not perfect. You can see the border's not completely perfect everywhere. It's no biggie to me. And you could sketch out the things that you wanted to do it before you did it. You know, there's no right or wrong. So I kind of enjoy just eyeballing it, and I tend to do that. So I'm going to do a little bit of inking over the gold lines that I made, so that you can actually start seeing the knots. This, I'm going to use this really tiny, pretty little fountain pen that I got. But you can use, things like micron pens. I've used all kinds of ballpoint pens and just, whatever it is that you feel like using. Just kind of being aware of what things are waterproof and what aren't. And so this fountain pen that I'm using, the ink is not very waterproof. So, and it's not going to hold up if you try to do some washes over it. It's going to bleed everywhere. So this was one of those. It's a Noodler's ink that I bought. It's a really pretty kind of purplish bluish color, and looks different depending on what I'm drawing over it with, and that's one of the things I like about it. But it is not waterproof, and so check those things out before you ruin something by thinking it's waterproof and putting a wash over it or something, and then it goes everywhere.